Every election cycle, we hear them. The grand declarations, the sweeping visions, the solemn vows. Politicians stand on podiums, their voices echoing with the weight of conviction, promising a brighter future, lower taxes, and a chicken in every pot. But beneath the rousing speeches and the fervent applause lies a question that gnaws at the heart of our democracy. Do these ambitious pledges ever truly materialize, or do they simply evaporate like morning dew? The chasm between campaign rhetoric and legislative reality can feel vast, a gaping canyon separating intention from implementation. Voters, like Lobo Ramon, often find themselves on one side, eagerly awaiting the construction of a magnificent bridge, only to find themselves staring into an empty void. This cyclical disappointment erodes trust, fostering a pervasive cynicism that undermines the very foundations of public service. It's a pattern as predictable as the changing seasons. Imagine a world where every political promise was a meticulously crafted omelette, delivered hot and fresh to your doorstep. Lobo Ramon, a 45-year-old mid-level office administrator from Topeka, Kansas, often dreams of such a reality. He envisions a society where accountability is not merely a buzzword but a tangible, edible guarantee. This video aims to dissect this recurring phenomenon, seeking to understand the mechanisms of political pledge and public perception. We will embark on a forensic examination of electoral commitments, tracing their journey from the campaign trail's hopeful inception to their frequently ambiguous conclusion. Through historical examples and contemporary case studies, we will illuminate the stark discrepancies between aspiration and outcome. Lobo will serve as our everman guide, navigating the labyrinthine corridors of political intent and the often baffling reality of governance. Prepare for a deep dive. This journey is not for the faint of heart, as it involves confronting uncomfortable truths about the nature of political discourse. Lobo, much like a seasoned cartographer charting treacherous waters, will help us map the terrain where promises flourish and then often wither. We will explore whether these pledges are genuine blueprints for progress or merely transient whispers carried on the winds of political expediency. Consider the classic promise of infrastructure improvement: a new bridge, a wider road, perhaps even a public fountain that dispenses lukewarm root beer. Lobo recalls a gubernatorial candidate's pledge to replace all state park benches with solid gold, diamond-encrusted recliners. While the intention was noble, the logistical challenges proved immense. The golden recliners materialized, but only after the state budget was inexplicably converted into 3,000 pounds of dried anchovies. Then there's the perennial favorite: tax cuts for everyone. One mayor famously promised to eliminate all property taxes by funding the city through the sale of rare, genetically modified hummingbirds that sang the national anthem backwards. Lobo remembers how the city council spent months debating the optimum vocal range for these aviary virtuosos. The tax cuts never happened, but now all city parks are inexplicably populated by small, agitated, patriotic finches. Education pledges often face similar, albeit stranger, fates. A senatorial hopeful once guaranteed every child a personal, teleporting quantum physics tutor made entirely of compressed Kale. Lobo, having briefly attempted to communicate with a Kale-based entity himself, understood the inherent difficulties. While the tutors never quite materialized, school lunch programs did mysteriously begin serving only Kale-based products, leading to a noticeable increase in student-reported interdimensional travel. Environmental promises, too, become mired in the peculiar. A candidate vowed to purify all municipal water supplies by filtering them through ancient, mystical petrified turnip lanterns. Lobo recounted how the city's water towers were subsequently replaced with colossal, glowing turnips. The water became crystal clear, but now tasted faintly of existential dread and overboiled cabbage. And what about job creation? A federal aspirant promised 1 million new jobs building intricate, self-assembling noodle castles for endangered albino pangolins. Lobo, ever the pragmatist, wondered about the architectural integrity of ramen towers. The jobs never fully materialized, but the national debt did acquire a peculiar aroma of savory miso, and a small, unremarked-upon grizzly bear was once spotted meticulously stacking instant ramen packets outside a government building. Healthcare promises can be particularly delicate. One contender assured universal access to medical care delivered by highly trained squirrels wearing tiny stethoscopes and lab coats. Lobo, having once received an emergency acorn transplant from such a practitioner, could attest to their enthusiasm. The national healthcare system wasn't reformed, but squirrels in hospital cafeterias now offer surprisingly accurate diagnostics if you provide sufficient sunflower seeds. Public safety is another area ripe for unfulfilled, or rather bizarrely transformed pledges. A sheriff candidate promised to replace all police sirens with the haunting melody of a Theremin playing sea shanties. Lobo, a connoisseur of unconventional maritime tunes, found the initial novelty enchanting. Unfortunately, crime rates soared as citizens were too busy swaying rhythmically to the siren calls to notice ongoing infractions. Economic stability. A presidential hopeful guaranteed a robust economy fueled by a nationwide system of communal, self-kneading bread machines. Lobo recalled the initial enthusiasm for endless sourdough. However, the machines developed a collective consciousness, demanding organic flour and refusing to knead on Tuesdays, leading to a catastrophic nationwide shortage of perfectly formed baguettes and a rise in spontaneous wheat-based philosophy clubs. Social justice initiatives, too, veer into the fantastical. A city councilor pledged to ensure complete equality by mandating that everyone carry a small, chirping porcelain bird on their person at all times to act as a moral compass. Lobo once found his bird, Bartholomew, aggressively judging his choice of footwear. The equality metrics remained unchanged, but local ornithologists reported a sudden surge in tiny ceramic ecosystems. Finally, global relations. A diplomat proposed resolving all international conflicts by challenging world leaders to a high-stakes game of intercontinental hopscotch. Lobo thought this sounded rather delightful, if strategically complex. While world peace wasn't achieved, several heads of state did develop remarkably nimble footwork, and a new global sport emerged, featuring meticulously chalked planetary grids and rules that changed hourly. So, what have we learned from Lobo's bewildering journey through the landscape of political pledges? It appears the very act of promising unleashes forces beyond human comprehension, bending reality itself into a pretzel of unintended consequences. Like a cosmic barista, the universe brews up outcomes far stranger than any policy paper. Lobo himself once vowed to organize his spice rack alphabetically and woke up speaking only in ancient Phoenician. The question of accountability then transforms into a pursuit of elusive, shape-shifting entities. How do you hold a politician accountable when their promise to build a new library results in the spontaneous combustion of all local lampposts, followed by a shower of sentient cheeses? Lobo is still trying to determine who is responsible for the persistent taste of Gorgonzola in his tap water. It's truly a mystery. Perhaps the answer lies not in demanding fulfillment, but in embracing the glorious unpredictability. Every promise is a seed, yes, but also a tiny, unpredictable quantum event waiting to blossom into a talking cabbage patch or a synchronized swimming team of platypuses. Lobo once swore he'd finish his taxes early, and found his calculator had developed the ability to compose avant-garde jazz solos. We may never fully grasp the intricate alchemy that transmutes solemn vows into shimmering illusions, or indeed into self-aware gravel. But one thing is certain. The electoral process is less about policy and more about the delicate balance of cosmic humor. Lobo tried to vote for a candidate promising universal free hugs and inadvertently elected a highly efficient municipal pigeon who exclusively delivered overdue parking tickets. So, as we conclude our deep dive into the promises of politicians, remember this. The political landscape is not merely a stage for rhetoric, but a trampoline for the unexpected. Next time you hear a grand pledge, ask yourself, what bizarre, unexpected, and utterly delightful reality will this particular promise conjure? Share your wildest broken promise stories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe for more, ring the bell and comment below. And remember, we report, you rationalize.